right. Thank you so much, Anand, for all those details. Well, viewers, we are shifting our focus now. External Affairs Minister Dr. S Jaishankar has hit out at Western moral ambiguity on energy purchases. Speaking in Finland, he said that the US had specifically asked India to buy Russian oil in 2022 to stabilize global markets. Jaishankar pointed out the hypocrisy, first being asked to buy, then being hit with tariffs and sanctions for buying it, and later having those sanctions lifted. This comes amid the ongoing US-Iran tensions and war, where the United States has been pressuring India to reduce its purchases of Russian oil and shift to alternative suppliers. Russia currently accounts for nearly 40% of India's oil imports. Let's in fact listen into that statement.
Let me pick up on two things which Lana said. I think the truth is, to a great deal, everybody has that sense of it's not my war. We don't admit it at times, but it's very natural, because at the end of the day, the more stakes you have, the closer it is to you, the more vested you are. It's your war. And for somebody else, the further away they are, it's not their war. I think there needs to be a degree of understanding of that, and the expectation that my war, as I said, I've had this statement thrown back at me repeatedly, so I don't repeat. I don't want to dwell on it too far, but I think the expectation that, in the sense Ukraine, because it is so strong in Europe's calculus, is therefore shared by the rest of the world to the same degree, is no more reasonable than the rest of the world. Each region would have its own.
All right, joining us on the broadcast is my colleague Yash Ahuja, who will help us understand this sharp response that comes in from our External Affairs Minister. Yash, obviously, at a time when the world has been facing an energy crisis, India has managed to mitigate that, and now our External Affairs Minister is putting out the word there that India has never, bowed down to anyone. US asked it to buy Russian oil in 2022 because they wanted to stabilize global markets. India did so, and it will continue to do so. It does not need another country telling it how it manages its internal affairs.
Yes, Shivani, and here I would like to quote the External Affairs Minister, where he said, "I will buy oil where I deem it fit, where I find it cheaper, where I find more supply." So he has, strongly criticized what he described as Western moral ambiguity and double standards on these energy purchases. He pointed out what he called a contradictory approach by Western nations, specifically the United States, first urging India to buy Russian crude, then criticizing and threatening punitive measures over those very purchases, and later easing or modifying some of those restrictions. India has consistently maintained that its energy decisions are guided by national interest, affordability, and energy security. Russian crude has become a major component of India's import basket over the past few years, accounting for nearly 40% of country's total oil imports and helping India manage inflation and fuel costs despite global volatility. EM's comments highlight and underline New Delhi's long-standing position that countries facing large-scale energy requirements cannot be expected to compromise their economic interests because of geopolitical pressures, especially when developed nations themselves have adopted flexible approaches when their own interests were at stake. Here, he pointed out that UAE, for example, has now started, building alternative routes to get their oil in, to get their energy in, and that is what he highlighted. That everyone is at a point where they think that it is not their war. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Yash, for all those details. We're moving on to some other stories now.